Antiquity Unveiled, the most marvelous revelations of the 19th century concerning the origin of Christianity, by Jonathan Manning Roberts. Julius Lucius Florus, a Roman historian. I greet you, sir. My mortal life came to an end about... Again with the AD, they're supposed to be refuting Christianity, and they're saying, in the year of our Lord. 130 of the Common Era, which was when the last of the Gospels started being written. Because the Matthew, Mark, Luke, 120 to 150, had their first versions. In the time when I lived on earth, all was confusion. Mankind was struggling for more light. The spirit of progress was strong, but it afterwards became buried underneath Christianity. To that religion we owed the long dark night of mental slavery. This religion was in its infancy in Rome, in my day, but I think I can truly affirm, from what I positively knew, that not only did the man called Jesus Christ never live, but this, that none of his apostles so called were known of at Rome when I lived there. I was engaged in writing a history of the Roman emperors at that time, and all sources of information were open to me, so that I could investigate all existing evidence and write a correct history of what I had taken in hand. Only a portion of my writings have been preserved and are in existence today. The reason of this was that there were 3 pages devoted to denouncing the Christian religion, which were condemned and destroyed by a pope called Urban IV, I think. The Christian popes were coming, but enough has escaped their destroying power to prove their religion is founded on mythology. Well, stories full of meaning. It doesn't mean a lie, but... and that there is no so-called revelations in the Christian scriptures that have not been taken from works antedating the time of Christ. The so-called revelation of Jesus has nothing new in it, and contains nothing that was not known to the ancients before that time. So much in relation to my mortal knowledge. I will now tell you that in the spirit life I find the ancient pagan idolater has a better opportunity to progress as a spirit than a bigoted and self-willed Christian. There are millions of Christian spirits in spirit life, many of whom know that their religion is a fraud, and yet will not acknowledge it to be so. They seek to keep up that mental slavery in spirit life, which they maintained when here. The difficulty in the way of reforming these spirits is that you are constantly sending fresh additions to them to swell their ranks. So long as this state of affairs continues, you must not wonder at the spiritual darkness that overshadows mankind. The enemies of truth that you meet here on the mortal plane are as nothing compared with the infinite number of spirits that are contending against you on the side of life. But all that a true progressionalist can do is to fight for the good fight, for truth, here, and then become translated to spirit life as a missionary on the other side. In this work, you cannot fail to attain infinite happiness. My name was Julius Lucius Florus, a Roman historian. I was, in the height of my work, about 125 of the Common Era. And again, I'm correcting that here. So, the spiritualist sort of thing, there's something that we can say about this, is that in life, we have more than enough chance to get things right. The idea of baptisms for the dead, is what I was raised with, are missionary work for the among the dead and that sort of thing. I mean, why? Whatever the case was for that time, what was expected of them, what they're now going to receive missionaries and anyways, refer to Smith's Dictionary of Greek and Roman Biography for account of Florus. We feel assured that our rulers will not begrudge the space we have given to this account of Florus. A remarkable analogy consisting between spirit account of himself and the fragmentary facts which have been permitted to come down to us concerning him constitutes a most important proof of the power of spirits to return and correct the historical as well as the religious errors of the past. This communication fully confirms Joubert's conjecture, which will be found in the account of Florus written for the Nouvelle Biographie Générale, as to the fact that but one and not three Floruses wrote concerning Roman history. The name of that Florus was Julius. Concerning Roman history, the name of that Florus was Julius Lucas, and not either of the names that have been attributed to him. Here we have another historian writing at the very time when Christian theologians claimed that the Christian scriptures were being composed, and who had access to all sources of information of that period, who declares that there was nothing then extant in relation to any man, Jesus Christ, or his alleged apostles. He admits that the religion that afterwards was called Christianity was then in its infancy at Rome, but its scriptures had no existence then. He says that he devoted 3 pages to denouncing the Christian religion, which was then taking shape, and for the reason a part of his writings were destroyed by one of the popes. He thinks by Urban IV, the Roman Catholic Church authorities had a much better reason than that for destroying or mutilating the writings of Florus, and that was the fact that there was no reference in them to any of the events which are claimed as historical in the Holy Bible. To get rid of the damning fact that there is no historical basis for their theological fictions, the Christian priesthood have been guilty of the heinous crime of destroying nearly all traces of concurrent history of the first 2 centuries of the Christian era. What little of it they have permitted to come down to us, they have so altered and changed as to destroy its historical value. Thanks to beneficent and all-powerful spirits, well, obviously they're limited. They're not figuring out as much as they say, but the way is rapidly opening to restore the world, the knowledge which those religious bigots thought they had forever destroyed. But the precious testimony is truly when Florus, the Roman historian, returns from spirit life and attests the fact that religious bigotry is as rife in spirit as in mortal affairs. He speaks truly when he says that the state of affairs must continue so long as we continue to manufacture religious bigots and send them to swell the bigoted spirit host. No greater curse ever scourged humanity than religious bigotry. Now, well, the so-called atheism has proved a bigger threat, and calling everybody bigots is not making his case, now is it? The fact that the Bible is 10,000 Greek variants, that alone, completely overshadowing any problem with the Tanakh, was what happened with the so-called New Testament. But obviously the Christian religion had appeared, and if they didn't know anything of authority and it was passed on, one of the things that we should be looking at is the spiritual experience that's open to us all. And now we don't have to be calling up spirits and to, to experience this sort of, to experience the direct spiritual life. But the idea of it being closed off and an unreliable transmission and rejecting of any truth or good in anybody else, that would certainly be a double standard. It's like, oh, we expect you to be righteous, but we don't have to be righteous because Jesus Christ. Well, that would be bigotry. But things differ from time to time, and there's a difference between serving God, being a servant, a devotee, a slave of God. Does not have to be the servile, we can't trust our own opinion in the priest. We must trust their opinion. So there's differences.